What's going on, streamers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Steven or Heartbreaker, and today is all about letting you know what I have discovered about Mixer in my first 6 months on the platform so that you can make a decision as to whether or not Mixer should be your home for broadcasting. All right, so I'm gonna go over 6 main points and then kind of expand on them a little bit to give you a better idea of what I mean when I say them. And we're gonna get right into it. The first point is that Mixer is without a doubt 100% nicer when it comes to the community compared to Twitch. Most of the things I'm gonna be saying here are gonna be comparing it to Twitch, since that's where I have a couple years of experience, not only using it but also streaming on it, and so that's where I'm getting most of this information. I can't really compare it to YouTube or Facebook in terms of streaming because, well, I haven't done much with those. Now there are a couple of reasons why I think the community is nicer. Part of it is just outright the size of it, right? It's easier to keep up with, to moderate, to limit when the community is so much smaller, right? It's easier to pick out the person who isn't nice or is toxic or is trolling and things like that. And of course, you still get them on Mixer, but I find that it's at a much smaller rate. One of the other things I think is that there is a stricter set of rules and a harsher maybe enforcement or a quicker enforcement. And part of that is because they've basically set the platform out to be a much more family-friendly platform, which of course has its pros and cons, which we can get into in a different video in terms of like the reach or just specifically what they want their site to be. And so that's why I think the community in general is nicer. I mean, it's really no contest. I rarely get trolls. I rarely get comments that are inappropriate and things like that, which when I was on Twitch, pretty regular. If you go to a Twitch chat these days, like, you can pretty much expect to see some trolly stuff, some inappropriate things, and you don't get too much of that on Mixer, and almost everybody on the platform kind of talks about that. So Mixer is definitely a nicer community. Point number one. Point number two is going to be sticking kind of with the whole what the community is made up of, aka the audience. So the audience is majorly made up of console users, players, and even streamers. There are not that many people on PC on Mixer, and therefore it does create a little bit of an issue in terms of gaining some viewership or playing games that aren't console-based, because if you'll notice, the biggest games on the platform are ones that are cross-platform. It's your Fortnite, your Apex Legends, your Paladins, things like that, Call of Duty, Overwatch. There are games that are either on both platforms or cross-platform. You can play them on both, right? And so it limits some of the other games. League of Legends isn't very big. Counter-Strike isn't very big, even though they're like some of the biggest games in the world, because the people who are watching it are on Xbox, most likely, like a large percentage, and therefore they don't play Counter-Strike, right? Like, they don't play League of Legends. And so it does cause less interest in PC games, which can be difficult. The other things about a lot of people watching from console is that there's less talking. Like, you can go to a chat that is like, you know, the viewer list is 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and like 5 people are talking. And I think part of that is the difficulty of course, typing if you're on, let's say, your Xbox using the app watching. There could be other factors in that, and I get into a little bit more of some of these people just not even being there a little bit later in this video. But point number 2 was, to reiterate, a heavy concentration of people on console rather than PC. Topic number 3 is monetization. Straight up, monetization on Twitch is vastly superior. And it's not even, you know, the first thing that comes to mind should be like, well, they have Twitch Prime. 100% right. Making money as a broadcaster on Twitch, it's pretty easy. If you get even low viewership, you're gonna get some subs. People get them for free. They have Prime. They can just throw you one. Bits pricing was better than the Ember pricing was until recently. There's just a lot of things, and Twitch has been on top of that, right? Their focus lately has been monetization. With the Prime things, then they had, you can gift subs, then they had the hype train recently. Like, they're pushing forward ways to be able to monetize your broadcast. Not so much over on Mixer, right? Like, if you're partnered, you can get subs. And for the longest time, it was just partners that could do subs and embers. Recently, kind of this embers for everyone sort of thing, where you can get embers now. However, embers were like really expensive. You would get $4.50 of embers and have to spend $7.50 to get them. So you're paying $3 extra of an upcharge to be able to give somebody a little bit. And so they were honestly a bad deal. I wouldn't want anybody to have given them to me having spent that money. They recently lowered that. Good job to Mixer. They made it more competitive with Twitch's numbers, and I think that's a really great move. But Mixer has to come up with something to battle Prime. It has to come up with some way that people can support streamers in an indirect, well, if you have this or if you bought this, then you get a sub, that sort of thing. Because I do think that unless you're one of the biggest on Mixer, it's struggling to make ends meet. I do think you have to go to a lot more third-party options, a lot more Streamloops, a lot more Patreon, a lot more whatever to be able to bring in money to your stream. Again, I'm not partnered on the platform. I don't know all the details of how some of these people monetize their broadcasts, their brand, and things like that. However, from the outside looking in the streams that I have seen, the partners that I have watched, that seems to be the case. It is definitely harder to make a living on Mixer than it is on Twitch, just based on what the platform offers in terms of monetization features. The fourth thing, and this is something that I'm not a real big fan of, is the noticeable number of AFK hosts, viewers, auto hosts. You have people out there who are getting hosted for 20, 30, 40, 50 people, but none of those people are there, like at all. They're not like people who are lurking, right? They're not people who just don't want to type because they're on their controller, as mentioned before. I mean, these are like 50 people are sitting in a channel, AFK, totally not at their computer, and that channel is rotating around on an auto host, giving people bumps in viewership. I don't like that. To me, it feels fake. The only benefit, which I'll touch on, is that let's say you have 15 viewers, 20 viewers, whatever. You're in a game where the top streamer has 100, then it goes like 75, 50, whatever, and you get a host for 40. That boosts you into that top row. Now you're getting more eyes on you, and it can help you grow that way, but an actual growth and actual putting you and being like a legitimate host, and I mean, it's fake as fake gets. Those people aren't watching anybody. They're not sharing their community with you. They're sharing a fabricated number to boost you up so that other eyes can get on you, but to me, it's still like it's just really inauthentic. And some channels always have it. And that just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like the idea that somebody somehow always has 50 AFK people in their stream. So when they go live, there's 50. They can host somebody. They weren't, so they're not even live. They haven't been live at all today, but then they host somebody and it's a 50-person host. And it's just like, what? You have 50 people just leave their computers on your page 24/7 at all times, and you just share that with everybody? It's a little concerning to me, but I digress. I don't want to go too heavily into that. That's my own opinion on that. My question on that is, would you give those numbers? Let's say somebody's consistently giving you that host, nobody's ever there, but your number is always like 60 because of it. Would you give those numbers for a sponsored stream or hashtag ad stream? Like, would you go to a company and be like, yeah, I average 50 viewers? You shouldn't. That's fake. You're ripping them off. And I'll leave it on that. Number 5. Mixer has a much, and I mean much smaller ceiling. Right? And you should know that. It's a smaller platform. The viewership it gets is much smaller. The amount of users it gets on a day-to-day basis is much smaller than the likes of YouTube or Twitch. However, there's pros and cons to this sort of thing, right? It is easier to get in front of people, but there are less people to get in front of. Pretty simple. So, while you still aren't guaranteed anything, right? There are still people who have come over and been like, I'm going to get on Mixer. It's easier to get in front of people, and they never get in front of anybody because they said it's 0 viewers or 1. You still have to get out of that dead zone. You need to get a couple of your real life friends, a couple of your online friends, open it up on your own browser, get you into a higher level in terms of the rows on the page to get in front of people. It is easy to do, especially in like some of the smaller or medium-ish games on the platform where like, again, if there's 400 people watching it, 100 in the first, 100 in the second, 50, 60, and then it just drops to the teens, man, it's not hard to get up in there, and then from there, you can try to grow in that game. Of course, if you jump straight into like a Fortnite on the platform, it's gonna be very difficult to do because you're gonna be buried so far, and you have to go so far in order to get up into those rows. However, it is easier to be seen, without a doubt. There's still less people to scroll through, so that's definitely a pro. However, there are far less people to see you. So there's probably less people who are just mingling through those lower rows in order to find your stream. So take that and kind of run with it however you want. The 6th and final point is kind of the features that everybody thought, or at least some people thought or mentioned, were like great for discoverability on Mixer, and that's like the hype zones, for instance. No. Definitely not. I have had quite a few hype zones, like probably, let's just say 15 hype zones, right? I might have gained like 10 followers across all of those. And while it's still like, hey, that's great, it's not super great, you know? I mean, they're basically just like rotating hosts for like, I mean, one time it was like 9 people in Fortnite. You're like, this is the biggest game on the platform. Focus, Steven, focus. But you get a host, it jumps your number up very shortly because it comes through with like 50 people watching. Nobody talks in your chat. Nobody follows you half the time. They just watch you. And sometimes it's not that like, oh, well, you immediately died or something, because that happens sometimes, right? Hype zone comes in, you died, or you're just watching your teammate because you're already dead when you made it to the top and it rotates in. But I mean, there was a time, and I would give you this brief story. It could not have been more entertaining. Pizza came at the same time. I answered the door. I had to show the chat the pizza because there was actually like 2 people talking. They would show us the pizza. I did that, and then I punched the last guy to eliminate him in Apex Legends. It was hype. It was a crazy fight. Like, it was super fun. Still minimal impact in terms of followers. I don't know that any of those people ever returned back. And some of that is just because people who are watching that just like to rotate around, watch them while they earn some sparks, and they call it a day. They don't really have any interest in jumping into those because they're actually watching it for the hype zone, for just watching people in their last games. They're not really doing it necessarily to get to know new streamers. So part of it is just how the platform gears that channel to like, hey, find new people, or just like watch people at the hypest moments of their games. Who knows? But that is kind of my take on the hype zones. I think they were done in a bad way in terms of the idea behind them and the meaning, but I do think they don't really serve a great purpose right now. I don't think that they should be a drawing factor for anybody who wants to swap to the platform. So there you have it. Those are my main 6 points that I have gained over my 6 months on Mixer. I started on August 3rd. It is now February 17th. So going into month 7, but you know, after being here for 6 months, again, I'm not knocking the platform. My community has grown tremendously. I mean, I was averaging 3 viewers on Twitch. I'm averaging 16 here. I mean, that's a large difference. My community is growing relatively quickly in 6 months. I'm at 1,200, so 200 followers a month. There's been high points, low points, all that jazz. The platform is nice. The community is nice. I think there's some unique features with sparks and things, which I didn't really touch on this video, but I definitely just wanted to provide some insight for you guys as to what I thought about the platform and what my experience has been. If you like this content, if it's helped you in any way, share down in the comments below what you like about it, what you don't like about it. Give me a thumbs up on it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Click the little bell, as everybody tells people to do at the end of these videos. And you can always come and chat with me in my stream at mixer.com/heartbreakertv.